The forest does not arrive suddenly. It reveals itself gradually, layer by layer, as if inviting the mind to slow down before entering fully. Tall trees stand quietly, their trunks rising upward with a patience shaped by decades and centuries. Leaves rest gently against the air, moving only when the forest decides to breathe. Here, nothing rushes. The forest is one of Earth's oldest living systems, shaped by time, balance, and quiet cooperation. Every tree, plant, and unseen organism exists as part of a larger rhythm that has been repeating for millions of years. Growth happens slowly, change happens gently. Stability comes not from stillness, but from constant, measured motion. At first glance, the forest may appear calm and unchanging, but beneath that calm lies continuous life. Roots extend through soil in silence. Water travels upward through trunks. Sunlight filters through layers of leaves, dividing itself carefully so that nothing is wasted. Every movement is subtle, yet essential. The forest floor is the foundation of everything above it. Layers of fallen leaves, softened bark, and decomposing wood form a natural blanket that protects the soil. This layer holds moisture, regulates temperature, and feeds countless organisms that live hidden from view. Fungi spread thin networks beneath the surface, connecting trees and plants in ways that feel almost invisible, yet profoundly important. These underground networks allow nutrients to move quietly from one place to another. A tree growing in sunlight may share resources with another standing in deeper shade. The forest does not compete aggressively. It balances. Above the ground, trunks rise at different angles and heights, creating a natural architecture shaped by light. Trees do not grow randomly. Each one responds to its surroundings, leaning slightly toward openings in the canopy, adjusting growth over years rather than days. Branches spread slowly, testing space, respecting boundaries set by neighboring trees. The canopy forms the forest's upper layer, filtering sunlight into soft patterns that shift gently throughout the day. This filtered light keeps the forest cool and protected, preventing sudden changes in temperature. The canopy also acts as a shield, slowing rain before it reaches the ground, allowing water to settle into the soil rather than striking it all at once. In this way, the forest regulates itself. Life within the forest follows cycles that repeat with comforting consistency. Leaves grow, mature, and fall. Fallen material returns to the soil. Nutrients rise again through roots and trunks. Nothing is discarded. Everything returns. The air inside a forest feels different. It is cooler, softer, and quieter. Sound travels gently here, absorbed by leaves and bark. Even distant noises seem to lose urgency as they pass through layers of vegetation. This softness creates a natural sense of calm, one that has existed long before humans learned to describe it. Forests influence the climate around them in subtle ways. They release moisture into the air through a process that happens slowly and continuously. This moisture cools the surrounding atmosphere, helping regulate temperature across entire regions. Forests do not dominate their environment. They harmonize with it. Light shifts slowly in forest spaces. Morning brightness arrives in thin streams between branches. Midday light spreads evenly, diffused by layers of leaves. As evening approaches, shadows lengthen gently and colors deepen without urgency. The forest never rushes from one state to another. Movement within the forest is quiet and deliberate. Insects move between leaves. Small animals follow familiar paths along the ground. Birds glide from branch to branch, conserving energy. Every motion feels measured, guided by instinct, refined over countless generations. The forest supports this life by remaining stable. It offers shelter, food, and protection through structure rather than force. Thick bark guards against extremes. Dense foliage creates safe spaces. Fallen logs become homes, bridges, and nutrient sources all at once. Time moves differently here. Trees measure their lives not in hours, but in seasons. Growth rings form slowly, recording years of rain, drought, warmth, and cold. These rings become a quiet record of history, preserved inside trunks long after the moments themselves have passed. Some forests have stood for thousands of years, adapting gently to changes in climate, terrain, and life around them. Even when disturbed, forests rebuild gradually, guided by the same principles that shaped them originally. Recovery is never rushed, it is patient. At night, the forest settles even further. Movement slows, temperatures soften, sounds become sparse and spaced out. The canopy above holds the sky gently, allowing only fragments of moonlight to reach the ground. Shadows deepen, but nothing feels threatening. The forest has always known how to rest. This resting state is not emptiness. It is preparation, energy conserved, balance maintained. Forests exist as living systems that reward patience. They do not reveal everything at once. The longer one remains still, the more details appear. Subtle patterns, gentle movements, quiet connections. This is why forests feel grounding. They operate on timescales larger than individual concerns. They demonstrate stability without rigidity, change without chaos. Everything belongs. Everything fits. As this journey begins, the forest is not something to analyze or control. It is something to observe gently, allowing its rhythms to settle naturally into awareness. There is nothing to remember, nothing to track. The forest does not require attention. It offers calm simply by existing. In the sections ahead, we will move deeper into forest life, exploring how plants, animals, and unseen systems interact in slow, steady balance. For now, it is enough to rest at the edge of the trees, feeling the quiet continuity that defines forest life. The forest stands, the forest breathes, the forest remains, and within that steady presence, the mind can begin to rest. As attention settles deeper into the forest, the sense of quiet becomes more layered. What first felt like stillness slowly reveals gentle activity, moving at a pace that never demands focus. The forest does not ask to be followed closely. It allows understanding to arrive gradually. Beneath the tall trees, the forest floor supports a world that rarely draws attention to itself. Soil here is not simple dirt. It is a living mixture of minerals, moisture, organic matter, and countless tiny organisms working together. This living ground forms the base of the entire forest system. Leaves fall softly and remain where they land. Over time, they break down into smaller pieces, guided by moisture and invisible life. This process is slow and steady. Nothing decomposes all at once. Each stage prepares the next, turning fallen material into nourishment for future growth. Fungi play a quiet but essential role in this transformation. Thin strands spread beneath the surface, connecting roots and recycling nutrients. These networks move resources gently through the soil, helping maintain balance across the forest. Their work is constant, but never hurried. Roots extend outward and downward, anchoring trees and drawing water upward through long trunks. This movement of water is continuous, flowing slowly from the soil to the highest leaves. Even the tallest trees rely on this quiet upward motion, sustained by pressure and patience rather than force. Moisture remains trapped within the forest floor longer than in open land. Shade reduces evaporation. Layers of organic material hold water close to the surface. This stored moisture keeps the forest cool and stable, protecting it from sudden changes. The ground itself is rarely flat. Gentle rises and shallow dips guide water naturally, allowing it to move without rushing. Streams form where water collects, flowing softly around roots and stones. These streams follow paths shaped over long periods, rarely changing direction abruptly. Small plants thrive in these spaces. Moss spreads across damp surfaces, creating soft textures that absorb sound and light. Ferns unfurl slowly, responding to shade rather than direct sunlight. Low-growing plants fill the spaces between larger roots, forming a continuous living carpet. This lower layer of the forest supports countless small forms of life. Insects move through leaves and soil, recycling material and maintaining balance. Their movements are subtle and often unseen, yet essential to the forest's stability. Nothing in the forest operates alone. Each element supports another, creating a system that relies on cooperation rather than dominance. When one part slows, another compensates. When one area receives more light, growth adjusts naturally. The forest regulates itself through feedback rather than control. Temperature changes happen gradually here. Thick vegetation buffers heat during the day and retains warmth at night. This steady regulation creates an environment where extremes are softened and transitions feel gentle. Air moves differently beneath the canopy. Wind slows as it passes through leaves and branches, becoming a quiet flow rather than a force. This softened air movement protects plants and animals while maintaining circulation. Light arrives, filtered and diffused. Sharp brightness never reaches the forest floor directly. Instead, it arrives in patterns that shift slowly, allowing plants to adapt without stress. This steady light encourages growth without urgency. As time passes, these small adjustments create stability that lasts for centuries. Forests endure not by resisting change, but by absorbing it slowly. Droughts, heavy rains, and seasonal shifts are met with patience rather than reaction. The forest does not hurry to recover. It simply continues. Trees that fall become part of the ground again. Their trunks break down into shelter and nutrients. New growth appears nearby, supported by what came before. the cycle remains unbroken. Silence in the forest is not absence. It is a layering of soft sounds spaced widely apart. Leaves brushing together, distant water moving, subtle shifts within the canopy. These sounds do not interrupt rest, they support it. Over time, the forest becomes familiar without effort. Patterns repeat gently. Nothing surprises. The mind begins to recognize the rhythm and relax into it. As we continue, attention will move gradually toward the creatures that share this space, exploring how animals live within the forest's slow structure. For now, it is enough to remain with the ground beneath the trees, steady and supportive, holding everything above it with quiet consistency. The forest stands on patience. The forest grows through balance. The forest remains calm. And in that calm, rest deepens naturally. As the forest continues to reveal itself, attention moves gently outward from the ground and into the living layers that rise above it. Life here does not separate itself into clear boundaries. Instead, everything blends softly, connected through space, time, and shared rhythms. The lower layers of the forest act as a quiet transition between soil and sky. Small plants, shrubs, and young trees grow slowly in the filtered light, never competing aggressively for attention. Their leaves are shaped to capture what little light passes through the canopy above. This adaptation happens gradually, refined over generations rather than moments. These plants grow close together, forming a living underlayer that softens the forest's structure. Their presence stabilizes the soil, prevents erosion, and maintains moisture. When rain falls, it is slowed first by the canopy, then by this lower layer, before finally reaching the ground. Water never arrives suddenly. It is guided downward patiently. Growth in the forest follows opportunity rather than force. A small opening in the canopy may allow a beam of light to reach the forest floor. Over time, nearby plants respond. Leaves turn gently toward the light. New growth appears slowly, filling the space without urgency. When the opening closes again, growth adjusts naturally. This responsiveness keeps the forest balanced. Young trees grow beneath older ones, waiting quietly for decades. They do not rush upward. They strengthen their roots, widen their trunks slightly, and conserve energy. When an older tree eventually falls, light returns to the space, and the younger tree responds smoothly, already prepared. This process creates continuity. Forests renew themselves without disruption. As trunks rise higher, their surfaces become worlds of their own. Bark textures differ from tree to tree, shaped by age, climate, and species. Some bark is smooth and pale, reflecting light softly. Other bark is thick and ridged, providing protection and insulation. Moss and lichen settle gently along these surfaces, creating muted patterns that shift slowly over time. These organisms do not harm the trees. They exist alongside them, drawing moisture from the air rather than nutrients from the trunk. Their presence adds another layer of softness, absorbing sound and regulating temperature along the bark surface. Higher still, branches extend outward with deliberate spacing. Trees rarely crowd one another aggressively. Instead, branches adjust their angles and lengths to avoid unnecessary overlap. This quiet negotiation creates the open spaces through which light filters. Leaves respond to these spaces with remarkable precision. Each leaf positions itself to receive light without shading its neighbors too much. This balance maximizes efficiency while maintaining harmony. Nothing grows excessively, nothing is wasted. The canopy itself forms a living ceiling. From below, it appears as a continuous green surface broken only by gentle gaps. From above, it looks like rolling terrain, shaped by height, species, and wind. This layer plays a crucial role in protecting the forest below. Rain arriving at the canopy is slowed immediately. Drops spread across leaves, merge, and drip downward gradually. This prevents soil from being disturbed and roots from being exposed. The forest floor remains stable because water is introduced patiently rather than forcefully. Sunlight behaves similarly. Bright light is filtered and softened, preventing sudden temperature spikes. The forest remains cool and regulated even during warm periods. This moderation allows life to continue steadily, without stress. Air within the forest moves differently as well. Wind loses strength as it passes through leaves and branches. What remains is a gentle circulation that refreshes the air without disturbing growth. This circulation helps distribute moisture and temperature evenly across the forest. Sounds soften here. The canopy absorbs sharp noises, turning them into distant echoes. Even movement feels quieter. This acoustic softness contributes to the forest's calming effect, allowing rest to come naturally. Life within these layers follows consistent patterns. Birds rest on branches, conserving energy. Insects move between leaves methodically. Larger animals pass through quietly, following paths shaped by generations before them. Movement here is purposeful but unhurried. Every organism adapts to the forest's pace. Those that rush do not last long. The forest rewards patience, efficiency, and restraint. Time within the forest is measured differently. Days pass without sharp transitions. Seasons shift gradually. Leaves change color slowly, signaling adjustment rather than urgency. When leaves fall, they do so quietly, returning nutrients to the soil below. Winter does not represent absence. It is simply another state. Growth pauses above ground, but activity continues beneath the surface. Roots remain alive. Soil organisms continue their work. The forest rests without becoming empty. Spring arrives gently. Buds form slowly. Leaves unfold without urgency. Growth resumes only when conditions support it fully. Nothing forces itself into existence. This patience allows forests to endure for extraordinary lengths of time. Some trees live for hundreds of years, recording history silently within their rings. Storms, droughts, and changing climates leave their marks, but rarely destroy the system entirely. When disturbances occur, recovery follows the same calm logic. Fallen trees open space. Light returns. Growth adjusts. The forest does not panic. It reorganizes. Even fire, when it occurs naturally, does not always mean destruction. In some forests, fire clears undergrowth gently, allowing new life to emerge. The forest understands renewal through change, not resistance. This adaptability is the forest's greatest strength. As night approaches, these layers settle. Light fades slowly. Temperatures cool gently. Activity becomes quieter. The canopy holds darkness softly, preventing sudden shifts. The forest transitions into rest the same way it transitions into growth. Nothing demands attention now. The structure of the forest supports stillness. Sounds space themselves farther apart. Movement slows. The system remains intact. This is the environment in which rest feels natural. The forest demonstrates how complexity can exist without chaos, how life can thrive without hurry. As we continue forward, the focus will gradually move toward the animals that share this space and how they live within the forest's steady rhythms. For now, it is enough to remain within these living layers, suspended between ground and sky, supported on all sides by balance. The forest grows slowly. The forest adapts quietly. The forest endures. And in that endurance, calm deepens naturally. As awareness drifts deeper into the forest, attention begins to settle on the lives that move quietly within it. Animals here do not dominate the space. They belong to it, shaped by the same patience that guides trees and soil. Their presence is subtle, woven into the forest's structure rather than placed on top of it. Movement in the forest is rarely sudden. Animals travel along familiar paths, shaped slowly by repeated use over generations. These paths are not straight. They curve gently around roots, fallen branches, and changes in terrain. Each turn reflects memory rather than urgency. Smaller animals move close to the ground, staying within the protective layers of leaves and undergrowth. Their colors blend naturally with bark, soil, and shadow. This blending is not decorative. It is practical, allowing life to continue without constant alertness. The forest does not require its inhabitants to be visible. Larger animals move with even greater care. Their steps are measured. Weight is distributed deliberately. Each movement minimizes disturbance, preserving the calm balance of the space. Even their breathing aligns with the forest's rhythm. Slow and steady, activity follows predictable cycles. Feeding happens during specific times. Rest follows naturally. No energy is wasted on excess movement. Survival here depends on efficiency rather than strength. The forest provides what is needed, but never all at once. Food appears gradually. Water remains available through streams and pooled moisture. Shelter exists in fallen logs, dense foliage, and layered terrain. Animals learn these patterns early and follow them throughout their lives. Sound within the forest carries meaning. Calls are spaced out and purposeful. Silence is not empty. It is informative. A lack of noise often signals safety rather than absence. Animals learn to listen to stillness as much as to sound. Birds contribute gentle movement above the ground. They glide rather than rush, conserving energy as they travel between branches. Their resting places are chosen carefully, often returning to the same spots repeatedly. Familiarity reduces stress and conserves attention. At night, bird movement slows dramatically. Most settle into quiet stillness, protected by height and foliage. The forest structure supports this rest, shielding them from wind and temperature changes. Insects form the smallest visible layer of forest life, yet their impact is constant. They move between plants and soil, recycling material and maintaining balance. Their presence is often unnoticed, yet the forest depends on their steady activity. These small lives operate almost entirely within the forest's pace. Short lifespans do not translate to urgency. Instead, repetition maintains continuity. One generation replaces another seamlessly, without disruption. Predation exists here, but it does not dominate the atmosphere. It occurs quietly, efficiently, and without spectacle. The forest absorbs these moments without changing its overall rhythm. Balance is restored naturally through population shifts rather than force. Animals learn restraint early. Excessive movement attracts attention. Excessive noise wastes energy. The forest rewards those who align with its calm structure. Seasonal changes guide animal behavior gently. As temperatures shift, movement patterns adjust. Some animals reduce activity. Others shift locations within the forest, following warmth, shade, or food availability. These changes happen gradually, allowing bodies to adapt without strain. Winter brings deeper stillness. Many animals conserve energy by slowing their metabolism. Others remain active but reduce movement significantly. The forest supports this quiet phase by maintaining stable temperatures beneath snow and leaf cover. Even during colder months, life continues beneath the surface. Burrows provide insulation. Fallen leaves trap warmth. The forest holds heat gently, preventing sharp drops. This stability allows animals to rest without fear. They trust the structure around them. The forest does not betray that trust. Communication among forest animals is subtle. Scent marks, quiet calls, and body language replace loud displays. These signals persist longer and require less energy. The forest carries these messages naturally through air, soil, and shared space. Territory here is flexible. Boundaries overlap without conflict. Space is shared rather than defended aggressively. When resources shift, animals adjust rather than confront. This adaptability mirrors the forest itself. The forest teaches patience through repetition. Each day resembles the last, closely enough to feel safe, yet varies slightly to encourage awareness. Animals thrive within this balance, never needing to anticipate sudden extremes. Rest is taken seriously here. Animals do not remain alert without reason. They trust the forest's consistency. When rest comes, it is deep and uninterrupted, supported by shelter and familiarity. Young animals learn by observing rather than being instructed. They follow older members of their group quietly, absorbing patterns without stress. This method of learning preserves calm across generations. The forest never overwhelms its inhabitants with choice. Paths are limited. Options are clear. Life becomes simpler, allowing energy to be directed towards survival rather than decision-making. Even moments of danger do not linger. Once past, calm returns quickly. The forest does not dwell on disruption. It absorbs and releases tension naturally. As night deepens, animal activity becomes sparse and evenly spaced. Sounds fade into long intervals of quiet. The forest holds this silence comfortably, allowing rest to spread through every layer. Darkness here is not threatening. It is familiar. The forest has always known darkness. Its structure is designed to function without light. Movement slows, but does not stop completely. Owls glide silently between trees. Small mammals move briefly, then pause. Insects settle. The forest breathes slowly. This shared rest creates a powerful sense of safety too. No single life form carries the burden of awareness alone. The system supports itself. Animals do not fight the forest's pace. They adapt to it fully. Their bodies reflect this adaptation in smooth movement, efficient behavior, and calm presence. As we remain here, surrounded by quiet life, the forest's lesson becomes clear. Survival does not require constant effort. Balance comes from alignment rather than control. In the next section, attention will move toward how forests respond to change over long periods, including storms, aging, and renewal. For now, it is enough to remain with these quiet lives, moving gently within a structure built for calm. The forest protects, the forest supports, the forest allows rest, and within that allowance, stillness deepens naturally. As time moves forward in the forest, change becomes noticeable, not through sudden events, but through long, gentle transitions. Forests are shaped by change, yet they are never defined by disruption. They respond, adjust, and settle again, maintaining balance across years, decades, and centuries. Weather moves through the forest softly. Rain arrives, filtered through layers of leaves, turning heavy drops into a slow, steady descent. The ground absorbs moisture gradually, preventing erosion and shock. Streams swell gently, then return to their familiar paths. The forest does not resist rain. It receives it patiently. Wind behaves differently here as well. Strong air currents lose their force as they pass through trunks and branches. What reaches the forest interior is a softened movement, enough to circulate air without disturbing stability. Trees sway slightly, distributing pressure through flexible trunks rather than rigid resistance. Storms, when they occur, rarely feel violent within the forest. Broken branches fall without urgency. Leaves scatter quietly. Even when a tree eventually gives way, it does so as part of a larger process, rather than an isolated loss. Light returns to the forest floor, and life responds calmly. This response is not immediate. The forest does not rush to fill empty space. It allows conditions to settle before growth resumes. Seeds already present in the soil wait for the right balance of light and moisture. When that balance arrives, growth begins without strain. Fire, in forests where it occurs naturally, follows similar principles. It clears gently rather than destroys completely. Underbrush is reduced. Nutrients return to the soil. Seeds adapted to heat awaken slowly afterward. The forest does not fear fire. It integrates it into long-term renewal. Aging is equally important in shaping forest life. Trees grow older gradually, their pace slowing over time. Rings form thinner each year, recording changes in climate and conditions. Aging trees provide shelter, food, and stability even as their growth slows. Eventually, age brings decline. But decline here is not waste. Old trees become habitats. Their hollow spaces shelter animals. Their decaying wood feeds fungi and insects. Their presence continues long after growth has stopped. The forest honors every stage of life equally. Seasonal cycles guide these changes gently. Spring introduces growth without urgency. Summer sustains it. Autumn slows it. Winter allows rest. These cycles repeat with comforting predictability, allowing every part of the forest to prepare in advance. Even extreme events are absorbed slowly. After heavy storms or long dry periods, recovery unfolds over years rather than days. Roots adjust. Species composition shifts slightly. The forest remains whole, even as details change. This long-term resilience comes from diversity. No single species carries responsibility alone. When one struggles, others compensate. Shade-tolerant plants thrive beneath tall trees. Drought-resistant species persist during dry periods. The forest spreads risk naturally. Change is distributed, not concentrated. Time in the forest stretches outward, smoothing sharp moments into gradual transitions. What feels like loss becomes transformation. What appears damaged becomes opportunity. The system never collapses all at once. Even human presence, when light and temporary, is absorbed into this rhythm. Paths soften, footprints disappear, sounds fade. The forest does not hold on to disturbance longer than necessary. The forest's memory exists not in specific events, but in structure. Tree spacing reflects past storms. Species composition reflects past climates. Soil depth reflects centuries of growth and decay layered together. Nothing is forgotten. Everything is integrated. As forests mature, they develop greater stability. Older forests change more slowly than younger ones. Their canopies are denser, their soil richer, their internal climate more consistent. These forests provide some of the calmest environments on Earth. Within them, temperature shifts are minimal. Moisture remains steady. Light moves predictably. Life settles into deep equilibrium. This equilibrium is not fragile. It is flexible. It bends rather than breaks. When change arrives, it spreads the impact gently across the system. The forest never fights change. It moves with it. This attitude toward change creates a profound sense of safety. Nothing feels temporary in a threatening way. Even endings are softened by continuity. As night approaches, the forest reflects this acceptance. Darkness arrives slowly. Sounds space out further. The forest prepares itself for rest without fear. Nothing resists the coming stillness. This quiet preparation mirrors the way the forest responds to all transitions. It does not cling to daylight. It does not fear winter. It does not rush spring. It allows each phase to arrive in its own time. The forest teaches that stability does not come from holding conditions constant. It comes from adapting gently without losing identity. As this section comes to rest, the forest stands as a model of resilience built on patience. It demonstrates how systems can remain calm even while changing, how life can continue without urgency, and how balance can persist through time. In the next section, attention will turn toward how forests influence the wider world beyond their borders, shaping air, water, and climate far beyond the trees themselves. For now, it is enough to remain within this slow-moving system where change never feels abrupt. The forest adapts, the forest renews, the forest remains, and within that steady rhythm, rest settles even deeper. As awareness widens, the forest begins to feel larger than the space between the trees. Its influence extends quietly outward, reaching beyond trunks and leaves into the air above and the land around it. Forests do not end at their visible edges. They shape the world far beyond what the eye can see. Air passing over a forest changes character. As it moves across the canopy, it slows and cools. Moisture released from leaves blends into the atmosphere, softening temperature and stabilizing conditions. This exchange happens continuously, without pause. Forests breathe gently into the sky. Water vapor rises from leaves through a steady process that never draws attention to itself. Millions of tiny releases combine to form a calm, regulating influence on the surrounding air. This moisture supports cloud formation and helps guide rainfall patterns over large regions. The forest does not command the weather, it nudges it patiently. Rain that falls elsewhere often began its journey over forested land. Moist air carried outward cools and condenses, returning water gradually to the earth. This cycle repeats endlessly, connecting forests to distant plains, rivers, and coastlines. Forests also guide water once it reaches the ground. Their roots hold soil in place, preventing erosion during heavy rain. Streams that originate in forests flow more steadily than those in open land. Their banks remain stable. Their water stays cooler and clearer. These streams travel far beyond the forest, carrying the forest's influence with them. Rivers shaped upstream by trees support life downstream for hundreds of kilometers. Forests quietly protect water sources without ever being seen by those who benefit. Temperature moderation extends outward as well. Areas near forests experience fewer extremes. Days feel cooler. Nights feel more stable. Seasonal shifts soften as air circulates gently through tree-covered land. This moderation affects entire ecosystems. Plants and animals beyond the forest's edge adapt to the steadier conditions forests help create. Agriculture thrives where forests remain nearby. Settlements benefit from the quiet protection forests provide. The forest's reach into the soil extends outward too. Nutrients carried by water and wind spread slowly across the landscape. Fallen leaves break down and release minerals that move through waterways and air, feeding distant systems. Carbon moves through forests quietly. Trees absorb it steadily, storing it in wood and soil. This storage does not happen quickly, but over long periods, it becomes significant. Forests do not eliminate carbon abruptly. They balance it gently. As forests grow older, their ability to store and regulate increases. Mature forests become deep reservoirs of stability, holding energy and matter in slow equilibrium. Younger forests grow rapidly, absorbing resources quickly. Both play essential roles at different stages. Even when forests are separated by distance, they remain connected through these slow exchanges. Air currents carry moisture and particles between regions. Migratory animals move seeds across boundaries. Rivers link uplands to lowlands. The forest exists within a web that spans continents. This interconnectedness reduces vulnerability. When conditions shift in one place, others compensate. Forests distribute balance rather than concentrate it. From above, forests appear continuous and textured, like living landscapes shaped by time. Their uneven canopies reflect differences in age, species, and terrain. This variation adds resilience, preventing uniform response to stress. Forests never operate as uniform blocks. They are mosaics of microenvironments, each responding slightly differently to change. Some areas retain moisture longer, others receive more light. Together, they form a system capable of adapting without breaking. This adaptability extends to interactions with human activity. Where forests remain intact, landscapes recover more easily from disturbance. Flooding is reduced, air quality improves, soil remains fertile. The forest absorbs pressure rather than reflecting it back harshly. Time slows around forests, not physically, but perceptually. Their steady presence reduces the sense of urgency. The mind aligns with longer cycles, easing away from constant anticipation. The forest does not promise permanence, it demonstrates continuity. Even when individual trees fall, the system persists. Even when edges shift, the influence remains. This quiet persistence offers a different way of understanding strength. Strength here is not resistance, it is flexibility sustained over time. As night deepens again, the forest's influence becomes even more subtle. Moisture lingers in the air. Temperatures settle into narrow ranges. Sounds soften further. The forest's presence feels expansive, reaching outward invisibly. The sky above forests often holds clouds longer, releasing rain gradually. Even stars appear softened through lingering moisture. The boundary between forest and sky feels less distinct. Rest becomes easier in such environments. The body senses stability even without conscious awareness. Breathing slows naturally. Attention drifts outward, then settles inward. The forest does not demand connection. It offers it quietly. As this section draws to a close, the forest's role as a quiet guardian becomes clear. It protects land, water, air, and life without announcing itself. Its influence spreads patiently, guided by time rather than force. In the next section, we will move deeper into how forests shape human experience and why they feel so deeply calming to the mind and body. For now, it is enough to rest within the forest's wider presence, feeling its steady reach beyond the trees. The forest extends. The forest stabilizes. The forest supports. And within that support, rest continues to deepen naturally. As the forest continues to hold its steady rhythm, attention begins to turn inward, toward the way this environment shapes the human experience without effort or intention. Forests do not attempt to comfort. They simply exist in a way that allows calm to emerge naturally. The human body responds quietly to the forest. Breathing slows without instruction. Muscles release tension gradually. The senses stop searching for sudden change. This response is not learned. It is remembered. For most of human history, Forests were familiar spaces, offering shelter, resources, and stability over long periods of time. Within the forest, the nervous system receives fewer sharp signals. Light is diffused, sound is softened, movement is predictable. These conditions reduce the need for constant alertness. The body recognizes this environment as safe, even without conscious thought. This recognition happens slowly. At first, awareness may remain alert, scanning gently. Over time, repetition takes over. The same patterns appear again and again. Tree trunks repeat vertical lines. Leaves repeat shape and color. The ground remains consistent underfoot. With nothing demanding immediate response, the mind begins to loosen its grip. Forests provide a form of sensory balance that modern environments rarely offer. There are no sudden flashes of light, no sharp corners, no rigid lines. Everything curves gently, transitions smoothly, and changes gradually. This softness allows attention to rest instead of react. The soundscape of the forest contributes deeply to this effect. Sounds are spaced apart and low in intensity. A distant bird call, leaves brushing together, the quiet movement of air. These sounds do not interrupt thought. They fill space calmly, preventing silence from feeling empty while never becoming intrusive. Over time, the brain begins to anticipate these sounds. Familiarity replaces vigilance. Each repetition reinforces the sense of stability. The mind stops checking for threats and starts allowing itself to drift. Even stillness in the forest feels alive. Silence here is layered, supported by distant, almost imperceptible activity. This kind of silence does not feel isolating. It feels held. The forest also influences perception of time. Without clocks or artificial schedules, time stretches gently. Moments feel longer, but not heavier. Attention widens rather than compresses. This widening allows thoughts to slow naturally without force. In such environments, the mind tends to wander less aggressively. Thoughts arise, then fade. They are not pushed away. They simply lose urgency. The forest does not compete with the mind. It outlasts it. Repetition plays an important role here. The forest repeats itself endlessly, yet never feels monotonous. Trees resemble one another, but no two are identical. Paths look familiar, yet change subtly with light and season. This balance between sameness and variation keeps the mind engaged just enough to remain calm. This gentle engagement prevents boredom without creating stimulation. The mind settles into observation rather than analysis. Human attention responds well to patterns that evolve slowly. The forest provides these patterns everywhere. Shadows move across the ground at a pace almost too slow to notice. Light shifts gradually as clouds pass overhead. Leaves sway slightly, then return to stillness. These micro movements reassure the mind that change is happening, but not urgently. The forest also removes pressure to perform. There is no expectation here, no goals to meet, no productivity to maintain. Life within the forest exists for its own continuation, not for outcome. This absence of expectation allows mental tension to release. Even posture adjusts unconsciously. Shoulders lower, Jaw muscles soften. Breathing deepens slightly. These changes happen without instruction, guided by the environment itself. The forest creates a sense of enclosure without confinement. Trees surround, but do not trap. Paths open naturally. Space exists without exposure. This balance supports both security and freedom. In this environment, rest becomes accessible without effort. The body feels permitted to rest. The mind feels allowed to pause. This permission is subtle but powerful. As hours pass within forest spaces, attention begins to move inward more easily. Thoughts become less complex. Memory fragments arise gently, then dissolve. Awareness floats between inner and outer worlds without anchoring too firmly to either. This floating state is not sleep, but it prepares the way for it. The forest does not demand sleep. It simply removes obstacles to rest. Even emotional states soften here. Strong emotions lose their sharp edges. Anxiety finds fewer places to attach. Without constant stimuli, emotional responses settle into quieter forms. The forest does not eliminate emotion. It stabilizes it. This stabilization comes from predictability. The forest rarely surprises. Even changes arrive gradually. Night falls slowly. Weather shifts over hours. Seasons turn over months. Nothing appears abruptly. This predictability builds trust. Trust allows the body to release vigilance. Release allows rest. The longer one remains within forest rhythms, the more deeply this trust settles. The body begins to treat the environment as an extension of itself rather than something external. Boundaries soften. Awareness spreads gently. The forest becomes background rather than object. This background presence supports long periods of quiet attention or complete mental drifting. Both are equally welcome. As evening approaches, the forest prepares for deeper rest. Light dims gradually. Colors desaturate. Sounds space themselves farther apart. Activity decreases without stopping completely. This gradual winding down mirrors the body's natural sleep cycle. The forest models how to transition into rest without abrupt signals. The absence of artificial light plays an important role here. Darkness arrives evenly. The eyes adjust slowly. The mind follows. In this darkness, nothing feels hidden or threatening. The forest has always functioned in low light. Its structure remains familiar even when details fade. This familiarity supports deeper calm. At night, the forest becomes even more predictable. Most movement slows or stops. Remaining sounds follow long intervals. The environment signals that alertness is no longer required. The body responds by conserving energy. Thoughts slow further. Attention narrows gently. Awareness becomes diffuse. In this state, the forest is no longer something observed. It is something shared. This shared stillness is what makes forests deeply restorative. They do not distract from rest. They align with it. As this extended section settles, the forest's role as a quiet guide becomes clear. Without instruction, it leads the body and mind toward balance. Without force, it supports release. Without demand, it offers rest. In the next section, attention will move toward the unseen systems that maintain this calm beneath the surface. including soil life, microorganisms, and long biological cycles. For now, it is enough to remain within this softened awareness, allowing the forest's rhythm to carry everything gently forward. The forest holds, the forest steadies, the forest allows rest, and within that allowance, stillness deepens without effort. As the forest continues its quiet existence, attention drifts toward the parts of life that are never seen directly, yet are always present. Beneath the forest floor, beyond roots and stones, an entire world moves slowly and continuously, maintaining balance without surface disturbance. This unseen world works patiently, without interruption, shaping everything above it. The soil beneath the forest is alive in a way that feels almost timeless. It is not a static layer, but a moving system, changing gradually through countless small interactions. Organic material settles gently onto the ground, layer upon layer, never all at once. Leaves fall softly, branches decay slowly, and each fragment becomes part of something larger. Decomposition in the forest is not an ending. It is a transition that unfolds at an unhurried pace. Fungi, bacteria, and microorganisms work together quietly, breaking down material into forms that can be reused. This process does not create noise or visible motion. It happens invisibly, steadily, and without pause. Fungal networks extend outward beneath the soil, connecting roots across wide distances. These networks do not act with intention, yet their function feels cooperative. Nutrients move from areas of abundance to areas of need. Moisture spreads gently. Chemical signals pass slowly, allowing plants to adjust without shock. This underground connectivity creates stability above ground. Trees that appear independent are supported by shared systems. When one tree receives more light, others may receive more nutrients. The forest distributes resources patiently, avoiding extremes. Soil organisms move slowly, responding to moisture and temperature rather than urgency. Their activity increases and decreases with conditions, never forcing growth. Even when conditions are favorable, expansion remains measured. The forest floor remains soft because nothing here compacts it aggressively. Roots loosen soil gradually. Burrowing creatures move gently. Organic matter cushions every step. This softness absorbs impact, preserving the structure beneath. Water moves through soil in slow paths, guided by texture rather than speed. It does not rush downward. It spreads outward, nourishing roots evenly. This slow movement prevents flooding and maintains consistency. Temperature beneath the forest floor changes very little. Soil remains insulated by layers of organic material. Heat and cold are introduced gradually, giving life time to adapt. Sudden extremes are rare. This stability allows microorganisms to persist across seasons. Even during winter, life continues beneath the surface. Activity slows, but never stops completely. The forest does not go dormant. It simply rests. Long biological cycles unfold here, invisible to those above. Nutrients circulate over years rather than days. Chemical balances adjust slowly. These cycles are not synchronized with surface time. They follow deeper rhythms. Because of this, the forest is resilient. Disruptions at the surface rarely reach deep enough to cause collapse. The underground world absorbs change and redistributes balance upward. Roots respond to this balance by growing slowly and deliberately. They do not seek dominance. They spread where conditions allow. They withdraw where conditions shift. This flexibility prevents strain. As roots grow older, they become part of the soil themselves. They decay slowly, leaving behind channels that guide water and air. These channels improve soil structure, supporting future growth without visible effort. Nothing beneath the forest floor is wasted. Everything returns in altered form. This deep patience influences the forest's surface rhythm. Growth above ground mirrors stability below. Trees grow steadily, not rapidly. Leaves emerge fully formed, without urgency. Branches thicken gradually. The forest does not aim for speed. It aims for continuity. Because these processes unfold over long periods, the forest feels grounded. Even during change, there is no sense of instability. The system always has time to respond. This deep time influences human perception as well. When awareness settles on forest ground, the mind begins to match this pace. Thoughts slow, attention widens, urgency loses relevance. The forest does not teach calm through instruction. It teaches through presence. As attention drifts deeper into these unseen layers, it becomes clear why forests feel restorative. They operate without friction. Nothing competes loudly. Nothing demands immediate resolution. This absence of urgency allows the nervous system to disengage from constant monitoring. The body begins to trust the environment at a fundamental level. Trust allows rest. Above ground, these deep systems express themselves subtly. Tree health reflects soil balance. Canopy density reflects nutrient availability. Animal behavior reflects stability beneath. Everything visible rests on what remains unseen. As night deepens, underground processes continue without change. Darkness does not affect them. They operate beyond light. This continuity reinforces the forest's sense of permanence. While surface life slows at night, underground life maintains steady rhythm. This continuity prevents collapse. When morning arrives, the system remains intact. The forest never resets. It continues. This continuity can feel reassuring. It suggests that rest does not require stopping all activity. It requires balance. As this section settles, attention rests on the idea that calm is maintained not by absence of movement, but by slow, consistent motion. The forest demonstrates this truth quietly through every layer of its existence. In the next section, attention will move toward long-term forest time, exploring how centuries pass within these systems and how forests remember their own history. For now, it is enough to remain with this deep, unseen steadiness, allowing it to slow awareness further. The forest endures beneath the surface. The forest balances without effort. The forest continues. And within that continuation, rest becomes deeper and more natural. As time continues to pass within the forest, it becomes clear that forests do not experience time the way humans do. Years, decades, and centuries flow together gently without sharp division. The forest carries memory not through stories, but through structure. Every trunk, every layer of soil, every pattern of growth holds quiet evidence of what has come before. Trees remember in rings. Each ring forms slowly, adding a thin layer of wood each year. Some rings are wider, formed during seasons of abundance. Others are narrower, shaped by drought, cold, or limited light. These variations are subtle, yet persistent, creating a long, continuous record preserved inside living wood. This record does not announce itself. It remains hidden beneath bark, unseen unless revealed. Even then, it speaks softly, telling its story through texture rather than words. Soil remembers as well. Layers of organic matter build gradually, each one marking a different period of growth and decay. Minerals accumulate slowly. Microbial communities shift gently over time. The ground beneath the forest becomes deeper, richer, and more stable with age. Old forests feel different because of this accumulated memory. Their soil is darker, softer, and more complex. Their canopies are layered and uneven. Their internal climate is steady and predictable. These forests have lived through many cycles, adapting slowly without losing coherence. Young forests move more quickly. Growth is faster. Light reaches the ground more easily. Change is more visible. Yet even here, the pace remains measured compared to most other ecosystems. Nothing in the forest is truly hurried. As forests age, they become quieter, not silent, but less reactive. Disturbances are absorbed rather than echoed. Storms leave marks, but not chaos. Droughts slow growth, but do not erase it. Time smooths everything. This smoothing creates a sense of continuity that feels reassuring. The forest does not restart with each season. It carries forward what already exists, adjusting rather than replacing. Long-lived trees anchor this continuity. Some stand for centuries, witnessing countless generations of smaller plants and animals come and go. Their presence stabilizes the forest, both physically and energetically. Roots deepen, canopies spread, space becomes defined. Around these elders, younger trees grow patiently. They do not compete aggressively. They wait. Waiting is not passive here. It is preparation. Roots strengthen. Trunks thicken slowly. Energy is conserved. When space eventually opens, growth responds smoothly. This patient succession allows forests to renew themselves without disruption. There is no single moment when one forest ends and another begins. The transition unfolds gradually, often unnoticed. Even death follows this pattern. Trees decline slowly. Branches fall over years. Bark loosens. Hollow spaces form. Life moves in gently. Nothing disappears suddenly. This slow release allows other forms of life to settle into the space left behind. Insects, fungi, birds, and small mammals find shelter and nourishment. The forest repurposes rather than removes. Memory within the forest is also held in species composition. Certain plants indicate past conditions. Shade-loving species suggest long canopy stability. Sun-loving species suggest earlier openings. Together, they tell a layered story of light and time. Animals contribute to this memory as well. Migration paths persist across generations. Feeding patterns remain consistent. Nesting sites are reused. These behaviors reinforce stability, passing knowledge forward without instruction. The forest does not forget easily. It adapts, but it remembers. This long memory influences how forests respond to new conditions. When climates shift, forests do not react instantly. They respond slowly, testing changes over years. Species distributions adjust gradually. Growth patterns shift subtly. The system absorbs difference without losing balance. Because of this, forests rarely collapse suddenly. Even under pressure, they degrade slowly, offering time for adaptation or recovery. This gradual change protects the broader ecosystem. The forest's relationship with time also affects how it feels to be within it. Time seems less urgent. Moments stretch. The past feels present. The future feels distant. This altered perception encourages rest. When urgency fades, the mind no longer needs to anticipate. Awareness can remain where it is. The forest supports this state by remaining consistent. Paths stay where they are. Trees do not rearrange themselves overnight. Sounds repeat in familiar patterns. The environment reinforces trust through repetition. As night cycles repeat, the forest settles into deeper familiarity. Each night resembles the last, closely enough to feel safe, yet varies slightly in sound, temperature, and light. This balance prevents monotony while preserving calm. Darkness becomes part of the forest's memory as well. Nighttime patterns repeat across seasons. Certain sounds occur at similar intervals. Certain movements remain predictable. The forest learns itself through repetition. Over long periods, forests shape the land itself. Soil deepens, terrain smooths, water paths become established. Even hills and valleys soften under forest cover, guided by roots and water moving slowly. This shaping happens quietly. It does not draw attention. It simply continues. Human history intersects with forest time only briefly. Compared to centuries-old trees, human presence is momentary. The forest absorbs this presence easily, especially when it is light and temporary. Paths fade, clearings close, sounds disappear. The forest returns to its rhythm without effort. This ability to absorb and release is part of what makes forests feel timeless. They exist on a scale that reduces individual moments to gentle ripples. When awareness aligns with this scale, stress diminishes naturally. Concerns feel smaller. Thoughts lose sharp edges. The mind stops racing toward resolution. The forest does not resolve anything. It continues. This continuation offers a powerful form of reassurance. Nothing needs to be finished immediately. Nothing needs to be solved now. Everything has time. As this section deepens, the forest's long memory becomes a quiet backdrop for rest. It reminds the body that stability does not require control, only continuity. In the next section, attention will move toward how forests recover from damage over very long periods, exploring regeneration, succession, and the slow rebuilding of balance. For now, It is enough to remain with this extended sense of time, allowing the forest's memory to carry awareness gently forward. The forest remembers slowly. The forest adapts patiently. The forest continues across centuries. And within that continuation, the mind can finally let go of urgency and rest more deeply. As the forest continues through time, it reveals one of its most remarkable qualities, the ability to rebuild itself slowly and completely, without force, without urgency, and without direction from the outside. Regeneration in the forest is not dramatic. It is quiet, patient, and deeply reliable. When a space opens in the forest, it does not remain empty for long, yet it is never filled all at once. Light reaches the ground more freely, temperature shifts slightly, moisture patterns change. These small adjustments signal opportunity rather than disruption. Seeds already resting in the soil respond gently. Some have waited years, even decades, for such conditions. They do not rush upward. Germination unfolds slowly, guided by moisture, temperature, and light. Growth begins at a pace that matches the forest rather than challenging it. Young plants emerge cautiously. Their early leaves are soft and thin, designed to capture light efficiently without wasting energy. Roots extend downward carefully, anchoring the plant before any significant height is gained. Stability comes first. This early stage of regeneration is subtle. From a distance, the forest appears unchanged. Only upon closer observation does new life become apparent. The forest does not announce renewal. It allows it to happen quietly. As time passes, these young plants begin to shape the space around them. Shade increases gradually. Soil becomes more stable. Moisture retention improves. Each small change prepares the environment for the next stage of growth. This process is known as succession, but within the forest, it feels more like continuation. One stage does not replace another abruptly. They overlap gently, blending together over years. Early growth supports later growth. Fast-growing plants protect slower-growing ones by softening conditions. Over time, slower, longer-lived species establish themselves, bringing stability back to the space. Nothing is wasted in this process. Fallen trees become nutrient sources. Broken branches provide shelter. Even disturbance contributes to renewal. The forest treats damage as information rather than failure. After storms, fallen trees lie where they land. They are not removed. They settle into the ground slowly. Moss appears along their surfaces. Insects arrive. Fungi spread. What once stood tall becomes part of the forest floor, supporting life in a different form. This transformation takes years. During this time, the fallen tree holds moisture, regulates temperature, and stabilizes soil. It becomes a quiet anchor, guiding regeneration around it. Over decades, the tree softens and returns fully to the ground. The space it once occupied supports new growth, enriched by the nutrients it provided. The forest has not lost anything. It has redistributed. Fire-driven regeneration follows similar principles in forests adapted to it. Fire clears gently, not completely. Seeds resistant to heat awaken afterward. Growth begins slowly, guided by the same patience that governs all forest life. The forest does not fear disturbance because it has time. Time allows wounds to close gradually. It allows systems to reorganize without shock. It allows balance to return without intervention. This slow recovery creates resilience. The forest does not need to be perfect to function. It needs only to continue. As regeneration unfolds, diversity increases. Different species occupy different stages of growth. Some thrive in light, others wait for shade. Together, they create a layered system that supports long-term stability. This diversity spreads risk. No single event can undo the entire system. When one species struggles, others persist. The forest remains whole. Even in heavily damaged areas, signs of recovery appear quickly, though full regeneration may take decades. Small plants emerge, soil stabilizes, life returns incrementally. The forest does not abandon space. This persistence shapes how forests feel to those within them. There is no sense of fragility. Even broken areas feel held. Even open spaces feel temporary rather than empty. This feeling supports emotional rest. The mind recognizes that mistakes, losses, and disruptions do not require immediate correction. They can be absorbed, integrated, and transformed over time. The forest demonstrates that healing does not need urgency. It needs consistency. As years pass, regenerated areas begin to resemble the surrounding forest. Differences remain, but they soften. The system integrates new growth into existing structure seamlessly. Eventually, it becomes difficult to tell where regeneration began. The forest carries no visible scars. It remembers, but it does not dwell. This non-attachment to damage is one of the forest's most calming lessons. Nothing is labeled as failure. Everything is treated as part of a longer process. Human systems often struggle with this perspective. They seek immediate repair and clear resolution. The forest offers another way, showing that gradual rebuilding can be stronger and more enduring. As night returns again, regeneration continues without pause. Darkness does not slow it. Underground processes remain active. Roots grow. Microorganisms work. The forest rebuilds even while resting. This continuity reinforces the sense that rest and renewal are not opposites. They occur together. For the body and mind, this lesson is powerful. It suggests that rest does not delay healing, it supports it. As awareness settles into this understanding, tension releases further. The need to monitor progress fades. Trust replaces effort. The forest never checks its own recovery. It continues. As this long section draws toward stillness, the forest's regenerative capacity feels less like a process and more like a presence. Renewal is always happening, whether noticed or not. In the next section, attention will move toward the deeper philosophical meaning of forests, exploring why humans consistently return to them for reflection, calm, and understanding. For now, it is enough to remain with the quiet assurance that nothing truly breaks beyond repair when time and patience are allowed. The forest rebuilds slowly. The forest heals without urgency. The forest continues forward. And within that slow continuation, rest deepens without resistance. As the forest continues to exist in its steady way, it begins to reveal something less physical, yet deeply felt. Beyond soil, trees, animals, and time, forests hold meaning. Not assigned meaning, but meaning that emerges naturally through long coexistence. Humans have always sensed this, even before language formed clear explanations. Forests do not communicate ideas, they communicate states. Within a forest, the human mind tends to shift from problem-solving toward reflection. Thoughts lose urgency and become softer, more spacious. This happens not because forests offer answers, but because they remove pressure. Without constant signals demanding response, the mind settles into observation rather than control. For most of human history, forests were familiar environments. They provided shelter, food, materials, and protection. Survival depended not on dominating the forest, but on understanding it patiently. This relationship shaped perception over thousands of years. The forest became associated with safety through familiarity rather than certainty. It was not predictable in detail, but reliable in structure. Paths changed slowly, resources returned seasonally, shelter remained stable. This reliability shaped trust. Even today, that trust lingers beneath conscious thought. When entering a forest, the body often responds before the mind does. Muscles relax. Breathing deepens slightly. Attention widens. These reactions occur without instruction or expectation. The forest does not demand vigilance. It allows awareness to soften. Philosophically, forests represent continuity. They exist across generations, outlasting individual lives. This scale reduces the weight of personal concerns. Problems feel smaller when placed against centuries of growth and renewal. This is not dismissal of difficulty. It is contextualization. The forest does not minimize experience. It surrounds it. Within forest spaces, identity often feels less rigid. The boundaries between observer and environment soften. Attention moves outward and inward with equal ease. This state allows reflection without self-focus. The forest offers perspective without commentary. Stillness here is not emptiness. It is fullness without noise. The mind encounters space rather than distraction. Thoughts can arise and pass without being pulled into action. This creates a rare form of rest, not sleep yet, but release. Many cultures have recognized forests as places of insight, not because they provide answers, but because they quiet the mind enough for clarity to emerge. This clarity is gentle, never forced. Forests are not symbols by design. They become symbols through consistency. Growth, decay, renewal, balance, patience. These patterns repeat endlessly, becoming visible metaphors for life itself. Unlike human systems, forests do not pursue progress. They pursue balance. This distinction is deeply calming. Progress demands movement forward. Balance allows rest within movement. The forest does not move toward an end point. It continues. This continuation offers comfort. There is no finish line to reach, no moment of completion to achieve. Life within the forest is sufficient simply by persisting. This idea resonates deeply with the human nervous system. Without goals imposed, The need for constant evaluation dissolves. The forest does not judge presence. It accepts it. Even mistakes feel less heavy here. The forest demonstrates that missteps become part of the path rather than failures. Broken branches become habitat. Fallen trees become nourishment. Disruption becomes opportunity. This perspective reduces fear of imperfection. It encourages gentleness. As awareness rests within this philosophical layer, emotional states soften further. Anxiety loosens its grip. Anticipation fades. Regret loses urgency. The mind no longer needs to hold everything at once. The forest holds it instead. This holding is subtle. It does not replace responsibility. It temporarily suspends pressure. Time feels broader here. Moments stretch. The future feels distant enough to stop demanding immediate attention. The present expands gently. This expanded present supports deep rest. Thoughts become slower, less linear. Awareness drifts between sensation and memory without attachment. Forests also remind humans of belonging, not ownership, but inclusion. The forest does not center humans. It includes them without emphasis. This inclusion feels grounding rather than diminishing. Belonging without expectation allows the body to rest fully. Night deepens this effect. In darkness, details fade. Shapes soften. The forest becomes less defined visually and more present as a whole. This reduction in detail mirrors the mind's transition toward sleep. The forest does not change its behavior at night to accommodate humans. It simply continues. This consistency reinforces trust. Nothing sudden will happen. Nothing demands attention. This trust allows surrender. Surrender here does not mean vulnerability. It means release of unnecessary control. As this release spreads, awareness becomes quieter. Thoughts lose narrative. Sensations become primary. Breathing becomes slower. Muscles soften further. The forest does not guide this process. It allows it. This allowance is rare in modern environments. Most spaces demand response, choice, or productivity. The forest demands none of these. It offers presence without requirement. This presence supports a deep philosophical rest, one that precedes physical sleep. The mind settles into acceptance rather than engagement. Acceptance does not mean indifference. It means balance. As this section reaches deeper stillness, the forest's role as a quiet teacher becomes clear. It does not instruct, it demonstrates. It shows how to exist without urgency, how to change without panic, how to endure without struggle. These lessons do not need to be understood consciously. They are absorbed through time spent within the forest's rhythm. As this absorption continues, rest becomes inevitable. In the next section, attention will move toward the final deepening phases of night within the forest, exploring how complete stillness forms and how the forest enters its quietest state. For now, it is enough to remain with this philosophical calm, allowing thought to loosen and awareness to drift further. The forest reflects life gently. The forest offers perspective without words. The forest allows release. And within that release, the mind moves closer to deep rest. As the forest moves fully into night, its activity does not disappear. It softens, thins, and spreads out across longer intervals of stillness. Darkness settles gradually, not as an event, but as a condition that feels familiar and stable. The forest has always known how to exist without light. Under the canopy, shapes lose their sharp edges. Tree trunks become vertical shadows. Branches dissolve into layered silhouettes. What remains is structure rather than detail. This reduction does not remove information. It simplifies it. The mind no longer needs to interpret complexity. Sound becomes the primary signal, and even sound grows sparse. A distant movement, a brief rustle, then quiet returns. The forest does not fill silence unnecessarily. Silence here is complete without being empty. The air cools gently, not suddenly, not sharply. Temperature changes occur slowly enough that the body adapts without awareness. This gradual shift encourages muscles to relax further, releasing the last traces of tension held throughout the day. Moisture settles on leaves and bark. Dew forms quietly, collecting without motion. This moisture stabilizes scent and temperature, adding to the forest's sense of enclosure. The air feels heavier, calmer, and more consistent. Movement within the forest becomes rare and predictable. No sudden motion interrupts the rhythm. Animals that remain active move with extreme efficiency, conserving energy and avoiding unnecessary disturbance. Their presence does not disrupt the overall stillness. Most life enters rest. Trees remain active internally even as external movement stops. Water continues to move upward through trunks at a slow pace. Cellular processes continue uninterrupted. The forest does not sleep the way animals do. It maintains balance continuously. Roots beneath the soil continue to adjust and grow. Microorganisms remain active, processing nutrients steadily. The underground world does not acknowledge night. It follows deeper rhythms. This continuity reinforces the forest's sense of safety. Nothing depends on constant alertness. Nothing collapses when awareness fades. The canopy above holds darkness gently, preventing open exposure to the sky. This containment supports rest. The forest feels enclosed without feeling closed. The night sky above the canopy remains largely unseen, but its presence is felt. Occasional gaps allow faint light to filter through, never bright enough to demand attention. These glimpses feel distant and calm. Wind, when it moves, travels slowly now. Leaves barely shift. Branches respond with minimal motion. The forest absorbs movement rather than amplifying it. This absorption quiets the mind further. External stimuli diminish. Internal awareness becomes diffuse. Thoughts slow into fragments. Narratives dissolve. Awareness floats between sensation and absence. The forest does not encourage thinking. It encourages being. Time loses definition at night. Without visible change, moments stretch. The mind stops measuring duration. This timelessness allows deeper rest to approach naturally. Breathing aligns with the environment. Inhales deepen slightly. Exhales lengthen. The body mirrors the forest's pace without instruction. Heart rate settles. Muscles soften further. Even posture adjusts unconsciously, seeking comfort rather than readiness. The forest offers no threats that require monitoring. Familiarity replaces vigilance. Trust deepens. This trust allows the final layers of alertness to release. Night within the forest is not empty. It is held. Sounds, when they occur, feel placed deliberately rather than randomly. Each one emerges briefly, then returns to stillness. Owls glide silently between branches. Their movement does not break calm, it belongs to it. Small mammals pause frequently, resting between brief activity. Insects reduce movement significantly. The forest does not enforce silence. Silence emerges naturally. Darkness deepens further. And with it, detail fades almost completely. What remains is presence without form. The forest becomes a single environment rather than a collection of objects. This unified presence supports the final transition towards sleep. The mind no longer needs to process. Awareness becomes passive. Thoughts arise rarely and dissolve immediately. Sensations blur. The forest does not mark this transition. It does not announce night. It simply continues. In this deep night state, the forest feels endless. Boundaries soften. Distance becomes irrelevant. Everything exists within the same quiet field. This field holds the body and mind without effort. Rest deepens. Even memory fades gently. Attention narrows to breath, warmth, and stillness. The forest's rhythm becomes internal rather than external. This is the forest at its quietest. Not inactive, but perfectly balanced. Every system functions at its most efficient, lowest energy state. The forest demonstrates that deep rest is not collapse. It is organization at its simplest. As awareness settles fully into this state, there is nothing left to follow, nothing left to observe, nothing left to resolve. The forest remains. In the next and final sections, the forest will guide awareness toward closure, not as an ending, but as a gentle continuation into sleep. For now, it is enough to remain within this deepest night, allowing stillness to carry everything forward without resistance. The forest rests without stopping. The forest holds the night. The forest remains steady. And within that steady darkness, rest becomes complete and effortless. As the forest remains settled in its deepest night, nothing shifts abruptly. Stillness does not arrive as a destination. It spreads gently, like a soft layer placed over everything that already exists. The forest does not change its nature to become quiet. Quiet is simply revealed more clearly now. Darkness here is complete but never empty. Shapes have softened so much that they no longer require recognition. Trees are no longer individual forms. They are presence. Ground and air feel unified, without edges demanding attention. The forest has entered a state where activity continues only at the most essential level. Everything unnecessary has already fallen away. Roots continue their slow, patient work beneath the soil. Moisture shifts quietly. Microbial life maintains balance without interruption. These processes do not need awareness. They do not need monitoring. They exist beyond observation. Above ground, movement has almost entirely ceased. What little remains follows long pauses, gentle enough to blend into silence. The forest feels complete, not paused. This completeness is deeply reassuring. The mind, sensing no requirement to remain alert, loosens further. Thoughts no longer attempt to organize themselves. They arise briefly, then dissolve without effort. There is no attachment to content. Awareness becomes weightless. Breathing remains steady and slow. Each breath feels supported by the surrounding stillness. There is no contrast between inner rhythm and outer environment. They align naturally. The forest does not guide this alignment. It allows it. As time continues, the sense of being within the forest transforms. Instead of feeling surrounded, awareness feels held. The distinction between observer and environment softens further. This is not imagination. It is the result of reduced sensory demand. Without sharp signals, the mind stops separating itself from what it perceives. The forest becomes a continuous field of calm. Memory becomes faint. Planning disappears. Identity feels distant, unnecessary. The forest does not require a sense of self to exist within it. This absence is not loss. It is relief. The forest demonstrates that existence does not need narration. It continues perfectly well, without commentary. Darkness deepens further, though it is difficult to tell how. There is no reference point left to measure change. Time has dissolved into presence. In this presence, the body settles fully. Muscles release what little tension remains. Even subtle effort fades. The body finds its most efficient resting state without instruction. The forest supports this release by remaining unchanged. Nothing startles, nothing interrupts, nothing calls for response. This is the forest's quiet gift. Even fear has nowhere to attach now. Without sharp edges, without sudden motion, without unfamiliar signals, fear cannot sustain itself. It dissolves naturally. The forest does not oppose fear. It outlasts it. As awareness continues drifting, the sense of boundaries dissolves further. There is no inside and outside. There is only a steady condition of rest. This is where sleep begins to form naturally, not as an event, but as a soft descent. The forest does not notice this descent. It remains exactly as it is. It does not adjust its rhythm to accommodate sleep. Sleep simply arrives. This arrival feels inevitable rather than chosen. As this section settles, the forest remains present as a constant background. There is nothing left to explore, nothing left to describe. The forest does not need description now. It holds. In the next section, the forest will gently support the final release of awareness, allowing rest to complete itself without closure or ending. For now, it is enough to remain here, suspended within stillness. The forest remains quiet. The forest remains steady. The forest remains. And within that remaining, sleep draws closer without effort. The forest now exists in its most settled form. Nothing new enters awareness. Nothing leaves it either. Everything that remains is essential, and everything essential is already in place. This is the forest at its quietest, not because activity has stopped, but because nothing unnecessary continues. Darkness is complete, but gentle. It does not press inward. It rests evenly across space, removing contrast and reducing effort. Without contrast, the mind no longer needs to interpret. Awareness floats without direction. The forest feels vast and simple at the same time. Vast in continuity, simple in structure. There are no sharp transitions left to follow, no layers to move through. Everything has softened into one steady condition. Breathing continues naturally. Each breath feels slow and supported, as if the surrounding air is doing part of the work. The body no longer holds itself upright. It rests fully into stillness. The ground beneath the forest remains stable and cool. Moisture holds steady. Temperature remains even. Nothing shifts suddenly. This consistency allows the deepest layers of tension to release. Muscles that were once alert are now quiet. Joints feel heavy in a comfortable way. The body settles into gravity without resistance. There is no effort required to remain still. The forest does not observe this settling. It does not respond. It simply remains as it is, offering no disruption. Thoughts, if they appear at all, are faint and incomplete. They do not form stories. They dissolve before becoming words. Awareness does not follow them. Memory feels distant and unimportant. There is no sense of before or after. Only a continuous present that feels wide and calm. The forest supports this state by remaining unchanged. No sound interrupts the rhythm. No movement demands attention. Even silence feels complete. Time no longer stretches or contracts. It becomes irrelevant. There is no need to track it. The forest does not measure time here. It exists within it. The sense of self softens further. Identity feels unnecessary. Awareness does not need a name or form to continue. It rests without definition. This is not emptiness. It is fullness without content. The forest holds this fullness quietly. At this depth of night, even the idea of rest fades. There is no effort towards sleep, no intention to let go. The process unfolds on its own. The forest has always existed in this state, beneath activity. What has changed is not the forest, but attention. Attention has finally aligned with the forest's deepest rhythm. This rhythm does not move forward. It does not move backward. It remains steady, like a slow current beneath still water. The body follows this current naturally. There is nothing left to adjust, nothing left to release. Everything that could soften already has. The forest does not close anything. It does not conclude. It does not signal completion. It simply remains present, allowing awareness to drift where it needs to go. If sleep arrives, it arrives quietly. If it does not, rest still deepens. Either state is supported fully. The forest does not distinguish between them. As this section continues, there is no need to add detail. Detail would only reintroduce movement. The forest now exists as background rather than subject. Background presence is enough. The forest holds the body without touch. The forest holds the mind without sound. The forest holds the moment without change. And within that holding, awareness becomes light, slow, and unbound. The forest remains exactly as it is. Nothing arrives. Nothing leaves. There is no transition to notice anymore. Darkness has become complete and neutral, no longer something to observe. It exists as a steady condition. evenly distributed, without depth or direction. The forest does not feel distant or close. It simply feels present. There are no edges now. What was once tree, ground, air, and space has blended into a single, quiet field. Not empty, not full, just steady. The mind no longer tries to separate one thing from another. Separation is unnecessary here. Breathing continues at its own pace. It no longer feels guided or noticed. It happens because it always has. Each breath moves through the body smoothly, without effort, without pause, without intention. The body has settled completely. Weight rests where it rests. Muscles remain soft. There is no impulse to adjust position. Stillness feels natural rather than imposed. The forest supports this stillness by doing nothing at all. There are no sounds that stand out. If something moves far away, it dissolves before becoming meaningful. Silence feels finished, as if nothing more needs to be added to it. Thought does not stop. It simply no longer forms. Awareness remains, but without shape. There is no storyline, no image, no direction to follow. Time has dissolved entirely. There is no sense of how long this moment has lasted, or how long it will continue. That information is no longer relevant. The forest has no use for clocks. Neither does the mind now. The sense of being somewhere specific fades. The forest is no longer a location. It is a condition. A quiet, steady condition that does not require attention. Nothing needs to be remembered. Nothing needs to be anticipated. The forest does not ask awareness to stay. It does not ask it to leave. It offers the same calm either way. If sleep arrives, it does so without crossing a threshold. There is no moment where one state ends and another begins. Awareness simply becomes lighter, thinner, more diffuse. The forest remains unchanged. There is no closing here, no farewell, no conclusion. Forests do not end. They continue through stillness, through darkness, through rest. This space remains open. The forest holds everything without effort. The forest remains without movement. The forest continues without needing to be noticed. And within this quiet continuation, awareness is free to fade, soften, and rest as deeply as it wants, without interruption, without instruction, without end.